A 75-year-old funny movie star just became the most talked-about name in Hollywood. Bill Murray's new movie jobs have been stopped. Other actors don't want to work with him anymore. But the real surprise is not what he did, it's what he is saying about it now. At a movie showing recently, he said things that made the whole movie world chatter. Getting arrested at the airport in 1970 was nothing. The fights while filming were nothing. What people are talking about today are bad things he did over many, many years. And Murray's answer, it's not what anyone thought. The internet cannot stop writing about it. Bill Murray was born on September 21, 1950 in a town called Evanston, Illinois, but his story really began in Wilmette inside a small, noisy house full of 9 children and the hard job of living. He was the 5th kid in line. Just another Irish boy from a Catholic family with old clothes from his brothers, a funny way of talking and not much else. His dad, Edward, sold wood for houses, bringing home around $13 to $800 every year, which was not much for a big family and the bills for Catholic school. The Murray boys carried golf bags at the Indian Hill Club, walking miles for $3.50 and giving every penny back to the family money pot. Their house was always messy, their lives always loud, but their dinner table had one rule. If you weren't funny, you had to wash the plates. His dad had trouble with being sick, diabetes, and died in December 1967 when he was only 46. Bill was 17, everything changed. The small, messy world became sadder and harder. Lucille, his mom, was left to keep it all running, working many hours in a medical mail room while 9 kids tried not to fall apart. Bill's brother Brian quit college and came home. He got a job at a comedy place called Second City, and that stage would soon become Bill's future. Bill was never good at following the normal way. At St. Joseph's School, he played sports and studied just enough to pass. He loved reading about American bad guys and people who explored the wild, like Kit Carson, Wild Bill Hickok, rebels, people who took risks, people who didn't follow the rules. That rebellious spark grew inside him. At Loyola Academy, he played golf, started a rock band called the Dutch Masters, and made jokes with students and teachers. He sang songs made famous by the Beatles, made up words as he went, and forgot his sadness with noise. The band gave him a stage, he never really left it. In 1968, he moved to Denver for college, planning to study to become a doctor at Regis, but it didn't work out. He missed home. His grades got very bad. He got rides from strangers back to Illinois, meeting weird, nice, silly people on the way. That ride home taught him more than any school book ever did. One night on his 20th birthday in 1970, he made a joke while waiting in line at O'Hare Airport about having bombs in his bag. The person at the ticket counter heard him. Security found almost 10 pounds of a drug called marijuana in his suitcase, which was worth $20,000. The story landed on the front page of the Chicago Tribune newspaper. Murray got a warning from the court and left school for good. He didn't get lost, he changed direction. Brian, who was now working at Second City, helped him get in. In 1973, Bill joined their traveling comedy group. Within months, he was on the main stage with famous people like John Candy and Betty Thomas. He played a strange singer in a bar, serious and wild, making fun of bar acts with a broken charm. He once broke a mean audience member's arm during a show, then bought him a beer and drove him to the hospital. That became a famous story. He wasn't safe, he wasn't perfect, he was impossible to forget. A year later, in 1974, Bill moved to New York. He joined a comedy show on the radio called the National Lampoon Radio Hour with people like Gilda Arner, John Belushi, and Christopher Guest. It was crazy, it was just right. He played a broken elevator operator, a fake Santa Claus in a Kung Fu Christmas sketch, and anything else silly he could think of. One night during a short play, he accidentally set a fake object on fire. The stage almost burned up. The audience cheered loudly. That's how he worked. Close to something going very wrong, always just shy of falling apart. His first real chance on TV came through a show on ABC called Saturday Night Live in 1975. Not the very famous version, but a short-lived show hosted by Howard Cosell. There he finally showed his Nick the Lounge Singer act, singing badly through old songs like Feelings. The audience laughed. The funny bit stuck, but real fame didn't come easily. When he finally tried out for the famous NBC Saturday Night Live, he was bad. The bosses didn't think he was good enough. Instead of telling him to leave, they offered him a job writing jokes. Behind the scenes, he made his short plays better, quietly waiting for a chance. That chance came when Chevy Chase left. Murray stepped in. His first time on TV didn't make people laugh. He begged the audience for laughs, but the lounge singer came back stronger this time. Slowly, people started to like him. By the third season, he was a key part of the show. He made SNL his stage not by trying to be like anyone else, but by staying weird, staying smart, and staying surprising. He walked in wearing a tall hat that no one had seen outside of a museum in over 100 years. It was January 15th, 1977, and Bill Murray's Abraham Lincoln wasn't giving a speech. He was being interviewed for a job. In old-fashioned, strange English, he answered modern office questions with complete seriousness, scratching his beard and refusing to take off his hat like it was still 1863. The short play was silly. That's what made it work. The crowd laughed because the awkwardness felt dangerous, like it could all fall apart any second. Murray hadn't even been on Saturday Night Live that long, but by April he was already back as the host. And that same Lincoln showed up again. It didn't matter who wrote the joke. Murray's serious face and weird body movements made it unforgettable. SNL kept mentioning it for years. People remembered it because it was wrong in all the right ways. 1 year later, on October 14th, 1978, Bill Murray made a family pose like floppy dolls in front of 20 million viewers. He was a photographer that night, shouting orders and moving their arms and legs, telling them to pretend to do things like eating invisible spaghetti. It didn't feel planned because most of it wasn't. Al Franken wrote the basic ideas, but Murray colored outside every line. That night, Steve Martin hosted, the band Blondie played music, and Murray stole the show with silly poses and surprising angry speeches. People didn't just laugh, they remembered it. The bit was shown again, talked about, shown in special shows about the past, and even came back in later seasons. It was weird, physical, loud, and it turned Murray from just another cast member into something bigger. By 1980, Bill Murray was leading tour through an old, famous place made entirely of cinnamon buns. April 5th was the day it aired, and the sketch was like a crazy dream. He shouted like a crazy person about old secrets of the pastry and kept talking about this made-up stone bun. The audience couldn't tell where the history ended and the joke began. That was the magic. The show was already changing, people were leaving, but Murray seemed special. His long, unplanned style didn't just work, it changed the way he would play characters for years. Like in The Life Aquatic, that night's episode had 13.5 million viewers. Even the chaos was important. Behind the scenes, though, things were going badly. John Damanian took over as the boss in 1980 and Murray hated it. He thought the show had lost its edge. He said so publicly. By May 24th, the night Buck Henry hosted, Murray made a mean surprise appearance, half joking that the show was over. 3 seasons in, he was out. The fight was bad enough that Domian was fired too. That episode had 12 million viewers, but it felt like the end of something. Murray wasn't just walking away from SNL. He was walking towards something else entirely, but not before nearly blowing up the building. In 1979, during one of the most popular episodes, Murray put fireworks into John Belushi's changing room as a joke. They went off loudly. Security had to get involved. No one got hurt, but the chaos scared everyone. For some, it was very funny. For others, it was a warning sign. That was the feeling backstage then, brilliant and risky, one cigarette away from a full fire. The audience never saw that part, but the cast never forgot it. When Murray filmed Meatballs in August 1978, nobody knew if he could be the main star in a movie. The budget was just $1.6 million. They filmed at Camp White Pine in Haliburton, Ontario, using real kids as background actors. That quickly became a mess. The campers missed swimming, crafts, naps, everything they actually wanted. One day after a potato sack race was stopped too many times, they fought back. They cut the tires on the camera cart, which had been filled with a gas called hydrogen. Everything stopped. But somehow that chaos made it into the movie. That's where Murray made up the line, "It just doesn't matter," in the dodgeball scene. That became the most important part of the movie. It made $43 million. Murray walked in as a funny man. He walked out a movie star. A year later in Caddyshack, he became a legend. His long, funny speech about a golf champion's story wasn't even in the script. Director Harold Ramis just asked if he ever did fake golf announcing. That was it. Murray made up the rest in one go. The character Carl Spackler almost didn't exist. He was going to be cut out of the movie. But the Murray brothers and Ramis saved him. He filmed most of his scenes in 6 days, completely making it up. The budget was $6 million. It made $40 million Jew. Sent in the US, that one funny speech didn't just stay in the movie. It became the soul of it, but the soul had a quick temper. During one scene, Murray was supposed to hit a golf ball he missed. In a fit of anger, he smashed a fake water feature built for the movie that was worth $10,000. It was supposed to make fake ripples in the water. Now it was gone. The crew froze. Ray Mize didn't yell. He didn't need to. Everyone knew that fake set wouldn't be rebuilt. It stayed broken. And somehow that rough feeling made the movie feel real. The smashing was expensive, but the famous story it left behind was priceless. Then came Where the Buffalo Roam in 1980. Murray played the writer Hunter S. Thompson and became the character in ways that scared people. He hung out with Thompson himself, got tied to a chair, thrown into a pool in Aspen. He showed up to SNL still acting like the character, with a cigarette holder, shaky energy, and anger just under the surface. The script for the movie was bad, so Murray and Thompson rewrote pages while they were filming. The end of the movie had to be filmed again just days before it came out. The early showing for reporters was canceled. The film never got finished the way it was supposed to, and Murray couldn't stop acting like the role. Even after filming was done, he carried Thompson around with him like a ghost. In 1981, Stripes gave him a new kind of mess. The mud wrestling scene was Murray's idea with the director Ivan Reitman. He added the line, "All right, I'll take the Aunt Jemima treatment on the spot." It was filmed in a real pit, and during one fall, Murray accidentally punched himself in the face. He needed stitches. The scene was so real that the movie rating group MPAA almost gave the movie an X rating, very bad. Columbia Pictures had to cut it twice to get it back to a normal rating. John Candy hated the whole thing. Said it was the most embarrassing thing he'd ever done. He wouldn't even take his shirt off. But Reitman refused to cut the scene. It stayed, and Stripes became another popular movie born from accidents, blood, making things up, and being stubborn. Bill Murray didn't just act in his movies, he threw himself into them, sometimes too far. Back in 1984, on the set of Ghostbusters, there was a moment that didn't feel right. During a flirty scene with Sigourney Weaver, Murray suddenly grabbed her in a way that hadn't been talked about. It wasn't in the script. The cameras stopped, filming stopped for hours. Weaver was upset. The rest of the actors and crew were nervous. Murray was known for his wild, made-up parts, but this went too far. They fixed the problem eventually, enough to keep filming, but that moment never really went away. People kept bringing it up long after the film made its $295 million around the world. 2 years later, Little Shop of Horrors came along. Murray played a strange little part. Arthur Denton, a guy who loved painful dentist work. The scene where he goes under a gas mask with Steve Martin became a kind of weirdly funny mess. Frank Oz, the director, and the boss, David Geffen, had disagreed about whether to hire Murray. But once he got the part, he refused to follow a script. He made up lines in every try. They filmed it for 2 days, 20 different tries, maybe more. At one point, he got so into the fake laughing gas part that he passed out, not for real, just from the mix of fake gas and the sheer amount of energy he used. The people who put the film together later said they had a hard time. Every try was so different, it felt like putting together 10 different moods. Then came Scrooged in 1988. Murray wasn't just acting in that one, he helped make it. He was a boss on the film and rewrote scenes all the time. One scene in particular didn't make it into the final movie. It was supposed to be a live TV show where his character Frank Cross gets very angry at a group of Christmas elves, but instead of words for a family movie, Murray started a rant full of bad words. Everyone on set burst out laughing, but it was too much for a movie rating that kids could see. Richard Donner, the director, had to cut the whole thing. Still, people who saw it live kept talking about how it was one of the funniest moments that never made it into the movie. In 1990, Quick Change did not do well. It was a strange little film where Murray played a bank robber in a clown suit. He helped direct it too, but things didn't go smoothly. The first director, Jonathan Demme, backed out. Murray and Howard Franklin took over at the last minute. On set, Murray insisted on making up nearly 40% of the lines. The result was messy. Critics liked his energy, but audiences were confused. The film barely made $15 million when it cost $17 million to make. Still, over time, it got a kind of small but dedicated following, partly because it was so weird, partly because of Murray's strange choices. Then there was What About Bob in 1991, and this time the chaos wasn't just in the movie. Murray decided to act like the character by actually following his co-star Richard Dreyfuss when the cameras were off. He followed him around in restaurants, outside hotels, even backstage. It wasn't funny. Dreyfuss got so annoyed he almost left the film. Director Frank Oz had to step in before things got too out of hand. Filming scenes again was delayed. The stress got so high the crew avoided standing between them. The movie still made $80 million, but Dreyfuss refused to speak to Murray for years afterward. The hurts weren't just part of the script, they were real. Groundhog Day came in 1993, and by then Murray was running on empty. He was very tired from years of SNL fame and feeling frustrated. His character Phil Connors was supposed to learn to play the piano during the time loop. Murray couldn't read music, so he learned by listening. The song Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini was hard, but he practiced for hours to make it look real. The close-up shots of the hands were done by a stand-in, but the rest was him. Director Harold Ramis made him film over 100 tries. Some people say he used Murray's actual tiredness as fuel for the character's change. The movie made $105 million, but behind that smile was a man slowly getting upset. In 1994, Murray took on something completely different. He played Bunny Greenidge in Tim Burton's Ed Wood, a man who was transgender from the 1950s in Hollywood. Murray went all in. He dyed his hair very blonde and never stopped acting like the character, not even during lunch. Burton later said, Murray brought a sad, gentle quality to the role in a way few could. He didn't make it bigger, he didn't make fun, he really became him. The film became a favorite of critics, and Murray quietly gained new respect as someone who could do more than just make up jokes on camera. But that didn't mean the fights behind the scenes stopped. After Ghostbusters II in 1989, Murray disappeared. He refused to answer the movie company, Columbia Pictures, for 2 years. He was angry about money he was owed but hadn't been paid, $20 million worth. The studio put it off. Murray sued. He wouldn't change his mind. The case was settled privately, but the damage was done. Sequels were delayed for years. Talks about new movies fell apart. It became one of the most famous money fights in Hollywood, and it changed how studios made deals with stars after that. He had been the funny kid in class for so long that people forgot he had a real face underneath the mask. Bill Murray made a living out of chaos, being sarcastic and punchlines. But by 1998, something inside him changed. Then came Rushmore. Wes Anderson gave him a script that didn't want laughs. It wanted silence, regret, sadness. Murray took it like a challenge. He was 47, wore sad, boxy suits that made him look like a man who had lost the instruction book for life. He lost 20 pounds. He used a feeling he had hidden decades ago, like that day in 1970 when airport security found 10 pounds of marijuana in his bag. He was 19 then. That mistake ended his baseball dreams and almost ruined everything. But now it lived inside Herman Bloom, the quiet, pool-floating, sad businessman in Rushmore. The movie didn't do well at the box office at just $17 million, but something shifted. Hollywood stopped laughing and started watching. By the time the Royal Tenenbaums came around in 2001, Wes Anderson had built a strange little world, and Murray walked right into it as if he'd always lived there. He wore a dull sweater and round glasses and mumbled lines that were never in the script. In one scene wrapped in a bathrobe, he looked straight at the camera and said, "I'm a doctor. Do you know what I mean?" Nobody planned it. Anderson kept it because it was perfect. That moment said more about him than 10 long speeches could. He wasn't trying to be funny anymore. He was just being. That film brought in awards and praise, but Murray didn't care about the trophies. He said Wes movie sets were the only places where no one told him to shut up. He took $9,000 for Rushmore, worked for free on Bottle Rocket, and once flew to Paris just to crash a Q&A at a Wes Anderson film festival and tell a joke. Nobody invited him. He just showed up. In 2003, Sofia Coppola took him to Tokyo. Lost in Translation was different. No big script, just a 3-page idea, some hotel rooms, and sleep problems from traveling. Murray played Bob Harris, an older actor feeling forgotten in a foreign city selling whiskey to strangers. Scarlett Johansson was the girl in the next elevator, equally lost. They whispered to each other in the night, and it wasn't acting, it was something else. The film made $119 million, won Sophia an Oscar, and earned Murray his first serious chance at Best Actor. He didn't win. Sean Penn did. But the final whisper Murray gave to Scarlett at the end, kept secret for 22 years, finally came out in 2025. "Don't forget me," he said. That was the whole line. The next year, Weeze gave him a red hat and sent him underwater in the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. It was silly on the outside, fake rubber sharks, a made-up ocean explorer hunting a mythical jaguar shark. But underneath, Zissou was a man broken by failure. They built a 100-foot tank filled with 55,000 gallons of water. One day, Murray accidentally fired a fake harpoon at Owen Wilson and lightly cut his leg. The crew laughed. Wilson walked with a slight difficulty. Nobody cared. Murray refused to scuba dive, so they faked the underwater scenes. He said later he didn't even realize they were making an art film. He thought it was about a silly hat. Then came Broken Flowers in 2005. Jim Jarmusch didn't give him a script, just a letter, a road map, and 5 women to visit. Old girlfriends, one of whom might have had his child. Murray played Don Johnston, a man who said little but felt everything. Around that time, the gossip papers were full of stories. His marriage to Jennifer Butler was breaking up. A London newspaper claimed he had a strange encounter in a hotel with a female fan. It wasn't proven, but the noise around him was getting louder. While filming, he'd called Jennifer every night. Some scenes in the movie, Don sitting alone, the TV flickering, silence stretching, looked too much like real life. It made only $13 million, but it was another step in the path of the new Murray, the one who didn't need punchlines. In 2010, while filming Get Low with Robert Duvall, things got difficult again. He played a smooth funeral director, but behind the scenes, stress grew. Murray disagreed with the speed of filming, stormed off set one day, and stopped production. It cost the studio time and money, and the crew felt it. Duvall stayed calm, but the stress left its mark. Critics still praised the movie, but people started whispering again. Murray was getting harder to work with, and then it got worse. In 2022, during practice for Being Mortal, a crew member accused him of bad behavior. He had sat on top of her on a fake bed, kissed her through face masks. She filed a formal complaint. Production was shut down. A $100,000 settlement followed. The movie was canceled. Murray called it funny and stupid, but the damage was done. The media criticism was very harsh. He said he felt like he was being cooked on a grill. He didn't say it wasn't true. The past didn't leave him alone. In 2016, his small appearance in the all-female Ghostbusters reboot caused another storm. Secret emails from Sony in 2014 showed he'd criticized the cast privately, calling it not needed. The studio even thought about suing him to force a cameo. Fans got very angry. He later said he did it because the cast was funny, but the email problem stuck. Even Zombieland Double Tap in 2019, where he died on screen in a violent zombie scene, had chaos behind it. During practice, he punched a co-star by accident and broke his hand. They kept the scene. It looked real. It was. By 2020, Sofia Coppola called again for On the Rocks. He played a flirtatious father, suspicious and smooth. The film was shot in New York during the sickness lockdowns. They had only 3 days in certain neighborhoods. Tight, secretive, strange. Murray said the film made him feel like remembering old times and tired. The lines blended again between role and reality. In 2023, he joined Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It was a Marvel movie, but he didn't follow Marvel's rules. He refused to act in front of a green screen, took 50 tries of a single angry sound. The crew laughed. The director called it dedication, but the delay was real. The weirdness was still there. Then 2025 arrived and Murray showed up at a film festival, Sundance, not with jokes, but with things he admitted. He said he had been lazy for years. He said he used to wait for roles to just appear, that now he was starting over. Small, independent films like The Friend and Riff Raff gave him some energy again. He said playing men who caused trouble felt like a kind of punishment for his own mistakes. He worked again with Kristen Wiig for Epiphany, playing a rich man who helps a desperate mother after she loses everything. The director called it a mirror of life's silly moments. Murray called it fun. The early showings in Berlin got attention. He still had it, but only in short moments. In The Phoenician Scheme, another Wes Anderson movie, he played a small part called God. He was 75 now, still showing up, still strange, still trying. He said he owed his energy to jazz and golf and was planning a 2026 tour to sing Bob Dylan and the Kinks. Not act, sing, because why not? And maybe that's the whole point. Bill Murray never followed the map. He got arrested at 19, broke his own hand at 69, whispered lines we never heard until he was 74, and kept showing up when no one expected him. The man who once said he'd do Caddyshack 2 and disappear ended up turning sadness into art. mistakes into moments, and whispers into memories. He didn't just change his job, he changed the way we see people who make us laugh.